Right now, playing with Death Guard probably feels like this. You waddle to the mid, your Plague Marines die in a pile, and somehow your opponent is on the 5th victory point while you're still trying to remember your stratagems. In this video, we're going to get a clear, simple plan to flip that. You'll see how Death Guard actually win games and how to build a list from 500 to 1,000 to 2,000 points without wasting money, and what to practice so you stop leaking primary every turn. We're using the Flyblown host detachment for scouts and stealth on our infantry. We're playing in the current chapter approved Secondaries Nexus tournament setup, where you score by controlling objectives and missions, not by tabling your opponent. By the end, you'll know what to put on the table, how it scores, and how to get your first win with this army. You're losing on primary. What's the reason you're losing on primary? The real reason you're losing with Death Guard isn't that your army is bad. It's that your list and your plan aren't built around how the missions actually score. In the current chapter approved and Secondaries Nexus setup, you win by holding more objectives than your opponent and by completing secondary missions, fixed or tactical. You don't get extra points for almost killing stuff. The game pays you for being in the right place at the right time. Death Guard are perfect for that, but only if you lean into what they do well. Walking on key objectives early, staying there through ridiculous fire, and forcing your opponent to come close enough that your short-range guns and melee actually matters. When you try to play them like a fast trading army, you fall behind on primary and never catch up. Your detachment, Flyblown Host, is baked for this. All your non-embarked Death Guard infantry, except Poxywalks, get Scout 5 and Stealth. That means before the first turn, you can move your Plague Marines and Terminators toward the middle board and make them harder to hit for the rest of the game. Scouts get you into good firing lanes and onto ordinary objectives early. Stealth stacks with cover to make random chip shots bounce. Those two roles alone fix the "I'm always half a turn late and my Marines die anyway" feeling. Your job is simple. Use those rules to get onto mid-board objectives on turn 1. Then treat every CP and every stratagem as a tool to stay there and keep scoring. Once you stop chasing kills and start playing like a stubborn scoring army, your win rate will jump fast. And if your list doesn't match the game plan, the rules can't save you. So let's build a clean path from 500 to a 2,000 point army that uses the same core models at every level. At 500 points, you run your 10 Plague Marines, 3 Blight Lord Terminators, a Blight Hauler, 1 Tallyman, 1 Icon Bearer. Total 500 points. This is your first win list. 1 big Plague Marine unit as your main scoring brick. A small Terminator unit just behind them as a counterpunch. A Blight Hauler to protect your infantry from heavy fire with its stratagem that worsens wound rolls from high strength attacks. And a Tallyman plus an Icon Bearer walking with your Marines to make that brick feel real. Then we're going to jump up to 1,000 points. You keep the entire core, and then you add these. 10 more Plague Marines, 1 Plague Brusk Crawler, 1 Foul Bright Spawn, and then the Plagueville Enhancement. You're at 1,000 points now. Now you have 2 big Marine bricks, real long-range threat from the Plague Burst Crawler, and a Foul Blight Spawn to punish anyone charging your front line. Plagueville goes on a character in your main scoring unit and makes that untargetable by most shooting while it's holding an objective, unless the attacker comes within 18. That's huge for playing the middle. So now at 2,000 points, you scale again without throwing anything away. You start from the 1,000 point list and add in Lord of Contagion, 3 Death Shroud Terminators, upgrade Blight Lords from 3 to 5, a Plague Surgeon, another Blight Hauler, a second Plague Burst Crawler, 10 Poxywalkers, 7 Plague Marines, a Plague Caster, Drowning Chorus Enhancement, Rejuvenating Swarm Enhancement, total 1990, which is perfect and gives a little room if points shift in the next update. At this point, you've got 3 Plague Marine units, Blight Lords in Death Shroud, as elite hammers, poxy walkers as a cheap screen, 2 blight haulers for protection bubbles, and 2 blight burst crawlers to pressure the board. Nothing you bought went to waste. If this is already making your games easier to win, subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown. So now how does this army actually play? Even with a good list, you still lose if you move like a headless chicken. Death Guard feels slow and clumsy when you don't have a clear turn pattern. In deployment, think in 3 ways. First wave, Plague Marines and Poxy Walkers that will use scouts 5 inches to step toward the midboard. Second wave, your Blight Lords and Death Shroud, and your characters ready to countercharge anything that hits the front screen. Third wave, your Plague Burst Crawlers and at least 1 small Marine unit on safe objectives. At the start of the game, use scouts to set into good cover that lines up with the objective and firing lane. Don't overextend. You want to be close enough to claim midboard on turn 1, but still protected by terrain, stealth, and your Daemon Engine bubbles. In your command phase, check your secondaries. If the table and matchup looked honest, fixed missions are easier to manage as a new player. If your opponent is very fast and cagey, tactical mission might give you better cards to score from where you already stand. Either way, your goal is the same. Hold more objectives than your opponent and complete missions while your opponent wastes time trying to dig you out. In your movement phase, move on to or near the objectives that matter most for your primary mission. Keep your Plague Marines within 6 inches of the Blight Hauler whenever possible, so you can punish high-strength guns with the -1 to wound strat if they target you. Don't rush your Plague Burst Crawlers. They want good firing lanes and safety, not glory charges. In your shooting phase, pick 1 key unit each turn to delete or cripple, using Droning Horror on a big infantry unit when you need reliable hit rerolls. Pop Eye of the Swarm when you want the same unit to count their guns as pistols and shoot while locked into combat. In your charge and fight phase, Onslaught is your spike. After a charge, it lets you throw out mortal wounds based on how many models are in engagement range, up to a cap, which is perfect for finishing off the tough targets. Vermin Cloud doubles the pile in, and Consolidate moves to 6 inches, which is your trap card. You reach onto objectives, warp units, and block fallbacks. When you follow this pattern, scouts into cover, stay on key objectives, use Daemon Engines to protect your bricks, and spend CP on the few big moments, you start feeling like a slow, inevitable avalanche instead of a confused traffic jam. So let's talk matchups, mistakes, and what to practice. The last piece is turning this from cool theory into muscle memory, and that means cleaning up common mistakes and knowing how to tweak the plan in different matchups. Big mistake number 1, chasing kills instead of holding objectives. Anytime you're about to leave an objective with a big unit to go fight into a random corner, stop and ask, do I gain more points by staying here? Most of the time with Death Guard, the answer is yes. The mission rewards you for controlling objectives at the end of the turn, not for style points. Big mistake number 2, walking out of your safety bubble. Your infantry want to be in cover, with stealth and within 6 inches of the Blight Hauler. If you keep that triangle, your opponent quality shooting feels a lot less scary. Only step out of that setup when it wins you primary or a key secondary. Big mistake number 3, wasting your best strats on low impact fights. If you spend them to kill a 5-man shape unit, you won't have them when a real threat hits you next turn. Practice holding your CP until a moment that clearly decides an objective. Here's how to handle certain matchups. Into hordes, your Plague Burst Crawlers and Bolters do the work. Focus on clearing units off objectives and then stepping onto them. Into elite gun lines, hide behind terrain, stay in your bubbles, and only give them 1 or 2 good targets at a time. Force them to overkill a single brick instead of deleting half your army. Into melee missiles, screen the proxy walkers and your smallest marine units. When your opponent commits, counter with Death Shroud, Blight Lords, Blight Spawn, and Onslaught all at once. Now here's your practice plan. First few games, just play the 500 and 1,000 point list and focus on 3 things. Always use scouts, always ending your turn controlling more objectives than when possible, and always keeping at least one Marine unit in a Blight Hauler bubble. Once that feels automatic, move to the 2,000 point list and start layering in secondaries and advanced stratagem timing. You'll know when it's working when games feel less like being blown off the table and more like your opponent runs out of time and resources before they ever catch up on scoring. Now you got a full death card roadmap, a 500 point starter list to get reps in, a 1,000 point mid-board bully list, and a 2,000 point Flyblown host build that actually plays the current missions. You know how the rules support the plan, how to protect your bricks, and what to practice first. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the How to Beat the Death card or Budget Upgrade Pass. See you next time.